Okay, so
That's on there. No,
this is, makes you realize how much work the speakers go through when you try to put together a little talk. So, did I lose two-thirds of the audience coming back? Hey, Walt, do you want to just see if they're coming? It is. We'll wait for them.
Hey, you guys. The program chairman is waiting for you.
Yeah,
I got it.
this is your phone number?
I can't lose 20% of the audience. Okay, so what I want to talk about, is there somebody else coming or that's it?
Well, I'm not going into the
Little girls' room?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Okay, well, let's get started. I've been working on this as kind of a side project, and I thought it was time to give it a little more momentum, so I thought I'd talk about it with you guys. So this is like the perfect audience, and I'm going to actually ask for some brainstorming too. So this is just a great group to kind of help me flesh out this kind of the half-baked idea that I've been working on. So the theory that I have is that kites and frisbees have been around a long time. That going to a park used to be a place where you throw a football, throw a kite, have various fun. And gliders have never kind of inched into that world. And so I'm coming up with some ideas on maybe ways that could happen. And it's kind of it's not for sure going to happen because I think there's so much competition from screen time now. So kids are playing computer games, and so it's hard to get them, think of them going out in the park and throwing a ball or throwing a kite or throwing a glider. But then again, things, gliders are a lot more exciting than throwing a frisbee, I think. And we all obviously are doing it. We get out in the park, we enjoy the outdoors, and so it's working for us. And I'm just kind of curious if there's ways to kind of expand it to another audience. There is kind of a sign of some excitement going on. I think those quadcopters and various things, as much as we kind of love them, hate them, but that's a sign of a whole new crop of kids getting into a just almost parallel universe to ours. And reading one of the old glider magazines, I noticed when helicopters came on, it was the exact same thing. Everyone was very suspicious of these helicopters, and pretty soon they just folded into the AMA and into the hobby in general. So there's hope, I think, from that. So, and the other thing that motivates me is to look at our demographics. We don't have a lot of kids. We keep reaching out to kids. We keep trying to bring kids into this. And, the age group is kind of the age of people who didn't have a lot of money when we were young. We used to build our own toys and build our own gliders, and we were kind of handy. And our children maybe weren't quite as handy with tools and things. So there's a chance that this could be a dying hobby if we don't kind of get some more energy into it. The other inspiration I had, and this is kind of a funny story, is that back in college, and I can tell you guys when I was in college, 1978.
Movie.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, really.
Around my company, if I said that word, I told the guy, I did electrical engineering when Tesla was inventing the AC motor. But for you, I can tell you, in '78, I was hanging out with a friend. We went to a pizza parlor, and he had a friend who was traveling up from California, and he was talking about this little beanbag thing, and he was trying to push it as a new thing to do. And we just looked at him like, what a nutcase. And it was a hacky sack, which at the time we'd never seen before. And the guy, you bounce it off your foot, and we just thought, that is the stupidest thing we've ever seen. And then again, it became a pretty big thing. So I've actually seen these little hobby things take off. So I'm trying to think there might be a way to get something with gliders too. So next slide. So what are the problems with gliders? We kind of know them, and love them. We're fixing them quite a bit. We kind of forget, most of us are engineers or pretty clever people, and we have to scratch our head to get these things flying sometimes. If like my wife wanted to fly gliders, she wouldn't know where to start. Or people who aren't handy with their hands, it'd be difficult. That's a problem, and they're hard to fly. I mean, I've been flying them for 10 years, and I still land all the time. My DLGs fly like 60 seconds half the time. It's a tough thing to work with. And I did put expensive down here, but I think that's getting to be not so true. We were just talking about that plane. The prices have dropped, and I looked at the price of an old craft radio in today's dollars. It was $6,000 in today's money to buy a 2-channel crappy craft radio in the 70s. So now that same radio might be $100, because for that feature set. So the price that's 1/60th of the price. So obviously the electronics are dropping quite a bit. So there's hope on that. Okay. To the next one. So the idea was I've been calling it Everyman DLG, and that just didn't seem to be too catchy. And then I was coming up with a new alias for RC groups. And I used Throwbot kind of it actually was a play on my name. And somebody used to call us Throw-Ass, but we changed it to Throwbot. But then I thought, and then just by chance I thought, well, electronics will be a big part. If these things are ever going to fly easily, it's probably going to be electronics. It's going to be the game changer, perhaps. So the thought is, a glider that could maybe take on Frisbees or kites would have to obviously be very easy to fly. You can't have it land in 30 seconds, and you can't be crashing all the time. It'd have to be easy to fix. I actually work in services, and I have ideas on how you could fix things, but one of the simplest things would be just each part is replaceable, and you can just send a box, get a box to swap out the part. I mean, it's not too expensive. You could just set it up like that. It also needs to be kind of unbreakable too. It's easy to fix. It's hard to make it delicate. And then easy to buy, which of course now with the web and all these various ways, there's lots of ways to buy stuff like this. And the last part is cool to watch, because I think, like the hacky sack had sort of some motion and some fun to kind of see some people doing it. It seemed kind of like unusual that you could keep a bag in the air with your feet. And same with the DLG, I think it's kind of fun to watch. I think a Radian would be much easier to fly, a motorized Radian, and it would probably almost fit a lot of these criteria, but it just doesn't look that much fun to see somebody flying a Radian. So those are my thoughts on the criteria. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So how are you going to get something to fly well? And I thought this would be the time to open up to the group is why, how come turkey vultures fly so well? And I've always wondered about the specs of a bird, and the thing that always grabbed me was how heavy they are. It's just unbelievable. It's like 5 times heavier than my DLG, about the same wingspan, and the glide ratio. I think that glide ratio is probably the same as my pickle. It's because I kind of figured out the math and came up with if you could launch a turkey vulture at 150 feet, which is like a modest DLG throw, a fairly good DLG throw, you could get 90 seconds of travel at their average speed, which is about 22 miles an hour. And they probably, and that would be 90 seconds just gliding down. And they also kind of, they might have some advantages. Partly they could maybe flock together a little bit and catch a thermal together or do something like that. But the thing I'm curious about, well, first of all, do you think a turkey vulture, how long do you think a turkey vulture would fly from 150 feet up? I mean, I'm trying to think. How many think it's less than 90 seconds?
No.
Yeah. How many think less than 2 minutes?
No.
So we have 1 for less than 2 minutes. And then how about from 150 feet, maybe less than 5 minutes? Or just basically they could step as long as they want.
Well, you figure 100 foot per second is about what you're going to see in still air. So you're going to be in
3 minutes.
2 minutes, 3 minutes. Yeah.
But it seems like turkey vultures then would fill out the air.
Well, it's hard to, without
the
lift.
Thermal. Yeah.
Without lift, they find lift by just flying.
Right. Well, that's my point. Is
Yeah.
they kind of would probably stay up longer than 90 seconds. The glide ratio is like if nothing happened,
Right.
they would probably be able to find something.
Well, the
better.
flock help each other too. There's more than one bird flying. One flies lift, and the other one will fly over to them. Too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and the flocking thing is actually kind of an important thing. I don't know if you remember, but Professor Kitts from Santa Clara University came here and was doing some experiments with flocking boats and robots and various things. And but with gliding, flocking actually really would help. If you could find a thermal, if you had 5 planes in a park
Working together.
working together a bit, it could be
Without
interesting.
human intervention, of course.
Well, that's it. You have to go into kind of autopilot or suggested direction or something. So my first audience participation, so could you turn on the light? Is so how do they fly? So basically, what do they do that beats us every time?
You mean turkey vulture?
Turkey vulture versus DLG or
They have
They have variable wing. They can lengthen it, shorten it,
variable
change the camber.
Thermal sensor.
Well, they have a built-in 4G gyros.
remote sensor. Yeah, but this is actually really
No,
true,
it-
right?
Yeah.
4G,
Well, yeah.
4D,
3D.
4G
is it DG or D?
G.
Gyros?
Four,
Gyros.
yeah, what is it? Four-axis gyro. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So they've got
Four
three.
axis. Yeah.
You only need 3.
Well, altitude helps.
Altitude's not controlled by a gyro.
Do they have GPS, do they have some kind of GPS? I mean, I guess they just have sight, right? So they do have some kind of.
Well, yeah, glider would only be 3G. That's right. That's true.
3D gyro.
3-axis gyro.
So
is
three.
Going gliders. Yeah.
Need a temperature and pressure sensor to
They
estimate the altitude.
They use their
Of
noses
course,
for that.
of course, you could have a
So
very.
the nose picks up temperature?
Air temperature, yeah.
So they
How
fly
about-
for a
how
warm
about a
spot.
How about a variometer?
Yeah.
I mean, they know when they're going up. and
They have a whole series of sensors.
Yeah.
Essentially, a whole panel of
And
sensors.
don't forget they have a brain too.
Yeah.
It was a bird brain.
Yeah, no,
But somebody had to say it.
Yeah.
but actually that's a good thing. I mean, they're obviously
Yeah.
flying with probably 1/10 their brain, and the brain is really small.
Yeah.
So you probably could mimic that with a
But they're idiots
Three
savants.
cents.
You know?
They're what?
They're idiots savants.
It's
Yeah.
fun.
Small brain.
Yes, you need to program that or whatever.
And unlike some of us, they do it reflexively, not having to think about it.
That's it.
Oh my God, which way am I turning?
Well, that's kind of true. I didn't even think of that one. I think like kind of intuitive or something, right?
Instinctive.
Yeah.
Intuition, instinct.
Not the
That's
way we
learned
fly.
though. That's
Pardon?
learned.
Very
Thermaling
quickly.
is
Very, very
part
quickly.
instinctive, part learned.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought instinct was a learned process.
Uh,
It appears like it's not learned,
You
but
know, they probably have a kind of a dampening maneuver, like they don't make harsh motions in air, right? Because they, what do you, like a stabilizer or something, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's the effect, that's the,
wing changing.
No, he also has vision.
Yeah. Okay,
You have heat sensors.
yeah. Anything else? Okay, those are great ideas. I didn't know half those. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so the next thing is what would such a plane look like? And I mean, I'm going to brainstorm some things, but my thinking was DLG would be kind of a fun thing to watch, so that's why I thought it would be more exciting than a motorized plane or a high start or a bungee launch or something. You know, and it also takes less space, which space has become kind of a problem. And I think also there's some magic. I mean, you guys all know this. I mean, when you don't have a motor, in fact, somebody said it today. Noel said it today. You know, how does that thing fly? You know, it's kind of like, wow. So that's kind of adds some thrill to it. And I know you guys aren't as into DLG as I am, but it doesn't take a lot of muscle, and it doesn't seem to hurt your back. And you know, so it's actually opened up to, I think, kids, and it doesn't take a lot of coordination either. That's kind of funny. It actually, you know, you could throw it the very first time you try it. So it's not that tricky. Then one question is, polyhedral versus ailerons. And you probably guess, I'm a little biased towards polyhedral. I kind of think it's it saves one servo or a couple servos.
That's right.
So it's cheaper.
Added stability.
And lighter.
It's lighter for the servo.
Well, because you don't have the servos,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
lighter.
Yeah.
You take 2 servos or 1 servo.
Yeah.
It's more stable, polyhedral's more stable than a shotgun.
Yeah, and then like a turkey vulture is
So
a
the-
huge, feed.
Less processing power would be needed.
Yeah,
But the turkey vulture has ailerons.
yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a few of those points were wingtips, yeah.
You can have both.
Yeah.
He also has poly, right? Because his
Right, exactly.
wings are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in fact, you can identify the birds just by their polyhedral shape.
The affected polyhedral is pretty big.
The one thing I don't know is if you can DLG launch polyhedrals, okay.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. No, you had a big Mimi, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and also, my first DLG was poly.
And it just
It was
worked.
a carbon.
It worked okay. You could launch it.
It worked very nice.
Yeah. And actually, I wonder if the wing might not hit the ground as easy when you're launching it.
Yeah.
No. Okay, well, that was a consideration. And then to make it unbreakable, I was thinking maybe foam, and I was kind of excited about the label coming out, but then I heard it launches like a pig. And I have a feeling the foam is just too flexible, and so you can't get all the energy into the launch. But anyway, so I'm kind of curious what you guys think about materials, and then the size too. The Mimi was 40 inches, right? Right, Noel?
Yes.
Yeah. What did you think of that size? Was it easy to work with, or easy to fly,
Oh,
or?
yeah, I've used that for introducing a lot of people and kids to the hobby, and I think it's on its 3rd rebuild now.
And it seems like 40 inches would really be easier to move around and.
Oh, yeah, it fits in the car.
If you're talking about kids, young kids, and you're gonna be restricted somewhat to the field, like Kennedy, for example.
Yeah.
Then the 40 probably applies more than.
That's right, you could probably throw a 40 inch.
Maybe smaller even. We're out of the box right now,
Yeah.
Why not 24? I mean,
Well, let's
But
bring
you're severely limited.
I want to get these ideas.
You get very limited in weight as you go down.
yeah, but in today's world, there's a part of the discussion here that I keep coming back to in my head here. Poly versus ailerons is sort of the demonstrator of that is. It's stability versus aerobatic ability. And, you don't have one with, you have one or the other. It's hard to have both. And you get somebody that's learning how to fly, they want something stable and easy to fly, but they also outgrow that pretty fast sometimes. And they want something that'll do the aerobatics. I mean,
Yeah, but you can do that cheaply electronically.
oh, that's the point I make. That's the
Yeah.
point I make is you could put a three-axis gyro in there and make it very stable. Dial it back, and so it's not so stable. You can have movable wing. I don't
From
know.
Hobby King now, you can get
Wing
your
around.
receiver with 3-axis stabilization built in.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's
For
all
about
kinds of
$30.
stuff available now, electronics-wise. But I think it's a big consideration you got to have. Is it do you want it stable, or do you want it aerobatic, or does it need to be both? I don't know.
Well, you can do aerobatics with a poly.
You can have
Just
a
more
basic-
challenging.
You can, but it's not the same thing.
It's
the
not
same.
as smooth.
No, it's not the same thing.
Bob, you can have both. You can have a basic, which would be poly, and you can have advanced with aileron.
Two different airplanes.
Two different.
Well, I think that's what I'm getting at.
Huh?
Just
Yeah,
two
that's
different
what I
sets of
get
wings.
at.
Two different sets
But
of
how much
wings.
aerobatic are you gonna do after a launch, before you come to the ground? I mean, there isn't much room to do anything.
Well,
Well, you gotta think
Yeah, I
about
don't-
the mission profile of the airplane,
Yeah, actually,
The
it's going to
height,
come down a lot.
yeah, I mean,
I think it should be simple.
should be simple.
So is that what you're
Yeah,
going to say?
okay.
Yeah, I mean,
That's all good. Yeah, all good.
Well, but, yeah.
You're not
Bob's
gonna do a
right
lot
too.
of, you're not gonna do a lot of loops and rolls at 150 feet. Coming down, but.
But one of the things is the smaller wingspan you go, the less ceiling you're gonna have. You're not gonna be able to climb as well with a small wingspan.
Oh,
Because-
you mean if you get a thermal?
Well, no, when you throw
Launch
it,
it. Oh, yeah.
when you launch it, you know, the smaller the wingspan, the lower your lift coefficient.
The general,
So you're not gonna climb, you know, basically as soon as you let go, it's just gonna go up and,
Yeah.
then you're back into glide mode again. Instead of-
Generally-
So then are you thinking,
Yeah.
generally the smaller, the less
60 inches is-
efficient.
Well,
the
why not
airplane.
say
Yeah.
50? you
Remember,
know?
we're dealing with gliders, not sailplanes.
Yeah, it's a glider.
It's a glider. You all know the difference between a sailplane and a
Tell
glider.
me the
right?
difference.
Sailplane.
Sailplane can rise above its release point.
Yes, well, so can.
Sailplane, solar, and glider glide.
That's
Yeah,
right.
G's can do it.
Okay, but a DLG
Sailplane's
can
always
rise
gliding,
above
it's just
it.
that it's
Oh,
climbing.
yeah,
by
I mean,
the
that's,
same time.
So this should be a DLS then.
We're trying to restrict this to young
okay,
kids.
how about any ideas about foam? I mean, is there ways to make foam stiffer or something?
Could you use aerogel?
What's aerogel? Is that the? Is that blue foam? You mix resin with it and then?
No.
No, it's one of the lightest
One of the lightest
substances there is.
substances on earth.
Oh, yeah,
There's no way.
no. Those, break that stuff so easy.
Then the other end of the
You know,
spectrum,
one
just make it
trick-
out of carbon, then you don't have to worry about fixing it.
But, you know, here again, if you're throwing an airplane, if it's too light, you're not gonna be throwing it much. You need the mass in the airplane.
Right, because at
You know,
first
in
it's
order
like
to
an
throw.
arrow.
Put some carbon in it, you have plenty of
You
mass.
know, you can have
Yeah.
a foam, a flexible foam structure stiffened with carbon fiber.
Or for that matter, go back to some old technology.
What?
Take some tissue
Oh,
and put it on with white glue.
Yeah.
Tissue,
Too much work.
Tissue has grain, so you can put 2 layers of grain, 90 degrees to one another. Stiffen it up without much weight coming
Charmin or Kirkland?
in. You know what I mean. The stuff we used to cover airplanes with, back when we were young.
silk spade.
No, not
For
so
yourself.
Okay,
Last-
one at a
last
time.
meeting,
Children.
You know, the guy built a 110-foot human-powered sailplane. So it was Mylar over ribs that were
Carbon.
built of foam and
Carbon.
and then
Carbon
carbon
covered-
covered ribs.
And it would take nowhere near the G-load that a discus launch glider does.
That's true.
Nowhere near the G-load.
But you're right, it's some kind of combination of materials. I mean, that's why I'm thinking you could like foam with maybe carbon rods in it or something. You know, there's maybe
They
some
had
way to
carbon
mix them
tubes in
up.
there.
Now, who's building this thing? The kids or is?
We don't know
I'm
yet.
not there yet.
There are a lot,
Well, that's my point though, you gotta take that into
There are a lot
consideration.
of airplanes out there with the carbon tubes already.
Well, I mean, I'll touch on it. I guess what I'm thinking, I mean, I'm gonna get into it, but I'm thinking open spec. So it would be a nonprofit, throw in your ideas and, you know, publish the spec
Are
for.
you trying to get us to buy shares into this company?
Not
Well, I mean, I get that too, but
It's
not,
the equivalent of open
I got
source
money.
program.
let's not get any other ideas about physical spec.
Define
As
your
long as
requirements.
SBS gets their 10%, we're okay.
Okay, any other physical specs? I mean, obviously, a boom, it
We might
makes.
come back. We might come back.
Okay, we can add to
They
that.
have it.
Yeah, boom. Boom seems to be the only
Yeah, I mean, that seems.
thing that makes sense in today's world.
Lightness and efficiency.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
But even a carbon boom, but you step on that and.
Well,
Don't step on it.
Well, Noel broke one, I broke one, it's easy to do.
Don't step on it.
Okay, next slide.
I broke her 3.
Okay,
If
so
you're a klutz.
electronics. By the way, I got these images off of Flickr, which is kind of fun. You can use them as open source images for your talk, as long as you give them a little credit.
Is that Arduino? Is that
No.
Arduino?
Yeah, yeah.
What is it?
Hasn't got enough
Oh,
pictures.
it's just a, okay.
So I'm thinking electronics, you know how Rich Duder's been talking about those crazy radios, what are they, FX something or whatever?
Arduino.
Oh,
Well,
that's
they're all programmable, they
Yeah.
look like that, and they're all programmable.
yeah, so they're, and
No,
they're kind
no,
of
the
open
fuck-
spec.
You talking about the FR Sky?
FR Sky is what I was
Yeah.
thinking. But it's kind of like an open spec, right? You can.
It's open spec, you can
Yeah.
hack their program.
Yeah,
Their manual will drive you crazy.
yeah.
How do I know? I got one.
what
I
man?
had two.
But the thing that they don't
There's a
have,
manual on.
but the thing about an open spec is you don't have to be the hacker. You could, you know,
That's
some
right, you
crazy
could use
guy
it.
in Yugoslavia will be the hacker on that. you know, as long as they had some kind of way to add to the source,
Yeah,
source
well,
code or whatever.
the FR Sky, which I really think is Far Sky,
Yeah,
is, if you know how to program on the language they're using, that you can do anything you want with the dang thing.
yeah, yeah. And then in fact, I think Rich told me I should just throw a stabilizer in my pickle as kind of a way to kind of start testing some of these things. There's a Hobby King, I think, has a $15 stabilizer that would control the ailerons or something.
And they, like I said, they also have the receiver with the built-in
Yeah, yeah. So,
three-axis thing.
so obviously, and the gyros are getting to be kind of like solid state gyros with
Oh, yeah.
no
Yeah.
moving parts except for that little lever and stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing is smartphones. I mean, smartphones and there's networking, like a Bluetooth network or something can communicate through these planes or something.
And how about iPads or tablets?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, that could be the control,
Yeah,
that could be the receiver perhaps.
I watched NCIS LA the other night, and she was flying it with a
No,
tab.
You could buy them from Verizon, could buy them from Verizon 3 years ago. You could
Yeah.
fly them with an
Yeah.
iPhone.
Well, take a look in the Christmas catalogs, and see how many of them in there
They're all
are
over the
being
place.
controlled by iPhones or iPads.
Or Androids.
Yeah,
So it's nice to be simple, but the other way, if a couple of these things start getting cheaper and easy enough, and you can throw it in the standard, each one might get another 30 seconds out of the flight or on average or something. So these things could start snowballing a little bit. It seems complicated now, but I mean, all this stuff might be put on one chip or something in the future, so.
Dick Dexter and I were talking before the meeting about how young kids, even as young as 3 or 4, just have no problems with things like iPads. And so, you can start them young and
Yeah,
they're
I'm
ready.
gonna start writing
Well
this down.
versed into this stuff.
But electronics will be our least problem, because
Yes.
nowadays with miniaturization,
Yeah.
it's all down
Hobby
to
thing.
mass and price.
And hobby thing, right?
Well, that's the one funny thing about an iPad or iPhone, it's almost like too much investment, but I still think everyone will have one, so.
They do now.
Well, they're getting cheaper. You can buy a smartphone now for
Yeah.
about $60.
Yeah, so they'll be everywhere, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then they get the receiver and the transmitters are getting cheaper too, so who knows? But, okay, so, are there other ideas of electronics that might be something that I'm missing? And these, the key,
Well, yeah,
you talk about FR Sky.
Oh, you should put
Altitude
Android.
limiting.
You should put Android next to iPhone
I don't
too.
need that.
Android next to iPhone too, not just.
Sorry.
3-axis stabilization, which is the most gyros these days.
Yeah. That's a
3-axis
small board.
stabilization.
it's a small
Yeah,
board.
that's
I think it's a small part of a board now.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's just a
that's-
small part
you
of the board.
definitely need that.
It's all solid state.
If young people are going to be
It's
flying.
manufacturing line.
Yeah.
How about video? Onboard video.
It's in there.
Well, that's an option, certainly.
That'll be cheap. What's that called? Virtual theory.
VR.
Yeah, but I don't know if that would
First person view.
First person view.
First person view.
first person.
First person
view.
Yeah, that's where you can see it from where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't fly at the same time.
Well,
Sure you can.
Oh, yeah.
of course you can.
I mean, of course you can.
Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but they actually now sell systems where there is a screen in the transmitter,
Oh, yes.
you know,
Yeah.
that you can fly your quads and your glider with the
Oh, yes.
camera. It's actually built in. And it's
Yes.
$169 for the whole
Yes.
system.
Yes.
You don't have to convert your 72 into
No.
I mean, it's really good quality.
No, it's everything.
The image is amazing.
It's amazing.
That, like if there's a smartphone or something, you could probably do that too.
So if you
Sometimes
imagine,
you've got setups to send them back to smartphones.
That's what?
There are setups to send them back
Yeah.
to smartphones.
Okay, any other electronic things that might be changing coming up?
Yeah, one of the things that's probably going to happen, it's already happening in some full-scale planes, is you can fly it by eyeball. You know, your eyeball shines
Yeah.
on it.
What's what we're talking
That's
first person
repeat.
view. That's
That's
first
repeat.
glasses.
without just your eyeball?
You mean just looking at it?
Just
Looking at
yeah.
a screen? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's how some of the
I
pilots.
got a term for
So
that.
track eye movement.
Eye tracking,
Yeah.
yeah, eye
They
tracking.
use that on helicopters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They use that in helmets, so the helmet turns. Usually if the helmet turns whichever way, there's sensors and it picks up which way the helmet is
Yeah.
turning. And the airplane flies wherever he's looking at.
Yeah.
You know, but some of this, I mean, in some ways,
Moving firefox.
it's kind of automatic versus manual, right?
Right.
Because in a way, if you had total control, you might just screw it up. And if you're, I mean, let's face it, with DLG, we have total control, and we're coming down in 60 seconds, 90 seconds all the time.
DLG is the lowest common denominator. As soon as you start adding all this other stuff, it's a totally different animal.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it's just a launch.
It's almost like playing a video game now. You got first-person view, you got 3-axis gyros. It's so you got to go back. To
Yeah,
the beginning.
yeah,
What are we
it's a
looking for?
spectrum and where you're going
It's
to go.
called a
Yes.
simulator.
But I mean, you think about a kite, you just hold a string.
The 3-axis gyro might be a very good thing for a beginner to have
Right.
from a stability
And
standpoint.
that's what I was getting
But
at.
not
is
Yeah.
you can, as the skills got better, if you had the right system in it, you could just dial it back as the skills get
Right.
better.
Yeah.
So he's doing more of the flying and being able to do more
That's
maneuverability.
what you can do.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Kyle, there is one problem, the gyro stabilizer, the DLG. As soon as you let go of it, it's gonna try and bring that airplane back to level.
Well, you can time
You
it.
have to have a defeat, a momentary defeat.
Yeah, you can defeat it. Or a switch on your transmitter for that matter.
Well,
You get the altitude, flip the switch.
you don't even flip it.
You know, we have
Trainer switch is spring load.
Yeah.
That will-
Is there some kind of telemetry thing? I mean, we haven't talked about the downlink. Is there any?
Any advantages?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's actually, if you've got a stabilizer on board, there's probably no advantage unless you want to know your altitude, your
Yeah.
speed, or something like that.
Well, a
Where you
Vario,
are.
but a Vario
Well,
might be handy perhaps.
You want to go to the other end of the spectrum, you can have it sense it when it knows what's in a thermal and makes it turns itself.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, so auto-thermal.
Yeah.
The thing is, you're trying to emulate turkey vulture, which was originally.
Yeah, that's
You need
right.
one more sensor, looking for roadkill.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want your airplane diving down every time you see a squirrel.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so, the next slide. So, so how does this thing kind of fit together? And, well, I do think that it could perhaps work. I mean, first of all, I think it would suck as a company trying to sell this. So, and that's the hard part of the hobby, right? No one makes any money. And it's a lot of work too. So, but if you could spread it out somehow, like I said, to have kids working all over the world, trying to compile into kind of a Facebook page or something that tells how to build this thing, it might be a way to do it. We were talking about Kickstarter a little earlier and crowdsourcing. I was watching a movie on Netflix, and it was actually a pretty high quality movie about video games, and it's called Video Games the Movie, and it was crowdsourced. I couldn't believe it. It was a real professional Hollywood-looking movie interviewing all these gamers and things, and the thing was all funded. And I'm sure almost everyone lost money on it, but they all were such passionate gamers, they wanted to throw a few bucks in to do it. So I'm thinking that might be a way to get some funding. And I'm not even sure what you need funding for, but it might be to maybe subsidize maybe young people who wanted to get into this. Or
Exactly what you need,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. 'Cause it would
Basically, it's for prototyping.
What?
Yeah, some
Prototyping.
Yes,
But
you could
but
maybe
it's
throw
done
a
by
few
you,
bucks.
done by-
No, I
Somebody
think there's one better, and Noel's already got it, the penny glider. Somebody checks a box and sends you an email, and we send them a penny glider. Hey, I don't know who the hell's gonna pay for those millions of penny gliders that's gonna go out there, or one step above a penny glider, or a design, or a prefab, or...
Start writing this down. Yeah, so just how you would, you know, how would you get some oomph on this? I mean,
Yeah, so you get crowdfunding, for instead of a penny glider, it's a 59-cent glider, but it's something they have to work to build, put together. It's not just cutting a piece and sticking a penny on there. Maybe it includes a little balsa wood or something, whatever, and it doesn't have to be a high performer, it just has to fly.
and that would be kind of the entry gateway
Yeah.
drug, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, but the funny, yeah.
So they go to SBS website and request a glider, and we send it to them, and we eat it somehow, or the crowdfunding pays for it or something.
Yeah, and obviously you probably get them to throw a few bucks in just so you do
No.
their, well,
No,
just make it
this is
free.
for kids. We're trying to bring these kids in. These kids don't have any money. They don't want to go to their parents and say, "Hey, Dad, I need $3 for this thing that may fly or may not, and I may or may not finish it."
But you're asking for crowdfunding for the development of this, right? That's what you're
Well,
saying.
I'm open to ideas.
It depends on how much.
think-
Material is out of thin air.
Well,
You
yeah.
you need an
No,
electronics engineer to integrate all the electronics together and package it, right? I mean, somebody has to have to pay him. you know.
Well, there's another way to do it too. You start with a penny glider and you go to the next level, and that one costs them $1 for shipping, and then you go to the next level. Now they got to pay $5. I mean, there's ways of doing that, but if they like the penny glider, then they can go to the next one and the next one and the next one. Now you can make money once you get about 4 levels up.
Yeah, but you gotta have the infrastructure there first.
But that's the whole point, is you start with the penny glider.
But you gotta be ahead of the crowd.
But see, okay, so I was thinking about it differently because I didn't want to get in that business. I was
Well,
thinking,
it doesn't have to be a business, it could be, like you said, a nonprofit.
but how about if you said, this is the spec, you get the body from, you know, LaBelle, you know, Rector, whatever his name is, Richter Gliders or something, and then you buy, and you buy these gyros from, you know, Hobby King, and you do this, and then you get all that, and we have Charlie in North Dakota will put it together for you for $5. You know, you just kind of put the instructions there, and then just.
That's probably a great way. So now you're starting at the other end, and now you got to work your way down.
Yeah,
So you're building an airplane that we would enjoy flying, and it would meet all these parameters, but we'll never get a kid to buy into a $200 airplane.
so that,
He
yeah.
doesn't have $200 to spend, and his
Yeah.
dad won't buy it for him. So you got to go down to the lowest common denominator again and find out, you know, what it would take to send a penny gliders, and that's a first start. Actually, that's not a bad first start. We pay. What does it cost to make one of those?
Oh, that's, seven, I don't know, what, 7 cents?
Okay, so we get 60 cents in postage in an envelope. So for less than $1, we could send out 1,000 of these things with a small crowdfunding thing. I'm just saying that, you know, you start up here, this is where we want to be. This is what we want these kids to fly and learn how to fly and enjoy, because they'd be fun. We would enjoy it. But we can't get there
Yeah.
without
So it's
something
like a
real
DDG
expensive.
is useless to a kid. I mean, it's way
Well, it's
too
useless to a
complicated.
kid. They got to learn how to fly it.
Yeah.
They already know how to fly that. And then you go to the next one above that. Now they got to put a little work into it. Maybe a little thought in it. Maybe you got to read. Maybe a little instructions to it. And maybe that one is going to cost them $3. Maybe, whatever.
Well, this is one thing that I observed with all these planes. I don't know how many thousands I've given away. Quite a few. And first one, my granddaughter and I made 2,000. We got rid of all that. That was just the first time around. But when these kids get these things, I tell you, they just really play hard with them and really see what they can do, how long they can keep them up. Out of every group, there's always a small fraction of kids will come along, they want to add tails to them, or more weight, or more pennies to the experimenting. This is where the stepping up is.
Absolutely.
And,
But your airplane is the hook. Your airplane is the
Right.
hook.
So I could see a progression that when you do this, do one thing. Having something else to go progress up to that be simple for them to do themselves would be good. Also, with some of these transmitters that he gave away, you know, I hear regularly back from one kid, excuse me, I think he's in Tennessee, and he inherited some equipment from his grandfather who passed away. But his mother's not really supporting it because until he learned something, so he's experimenting on his own, 11, 12 years old. So he needs something that's kind of stepping up, and I haven't been able to get a nearby club connected with them to
But you know, the truth of it is,
But he's doing it on his own and trying to do this, but trying to do it on, you know, almost.
we're guilty of it, because we don't provide them with a logical progression. We want to build stick and tissue models. We want them to fly DLGs with 3-axis gyros on them. We'll never get them into that unless we get them step by step by step. And the parents won't. I mean, what do you got? You got a 3-axis gyro, you got a radio, forget the gyro. You're going to have $200 into this by the time you buy a transmitter and servos and receiver.
One idea I had is, from your idea, was maybe you build it up by pieces. You know, like you get a glider that you just chuck. You know, it has foam wings and a boom.
So now you got to buy a separate wing for it, and now it'll add to the performance.
Yeah. But the body sort of is there already.
Yeah.
And maybe your entry is $40 or something. And you know, that might be, somebody might buy a $40 glider for a kid.
How many? If we had any kind of real what's the word? Advertising or something where we got some promotion and said, hey, this is the outfit that's giving away free gliders to all the kids that want them. You know, we got 50,000 gliders we can give out. That's $5,000 based on what we're talking about. And we got 50,000 gliders to give away. First ones that ask them, the first ones that get them. And after that, the next ones cost $3 or whatever. But that's how you get them. They get that glider home. They fly the glider. The parents see, boy, this kid's really got interested. I'll spend $3 or $5 or $9 or something for the next step up. That would really, I think that would bring a lot of people in.
The gateway drug idea.
Well,
yeah.
There's the last few years of my working career, I was mentoring back at MIT to the media laboratory, and it was what was the product development area, but it's really primarily toys, and that was a place where the Lego, what is it, the Lego robot, the mindset, what is it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
what it's called.
mindset.
But that was developed there, and I keep thinking here what really helped that. But that was done in the kit form in such a way that you take elements, kind of like what you're talking here about taking something like this and adding it to it, and Mindstorm, is that what the?
Yeah, it was sort of
I don't know
mindset.
what it is,
But that was really hot for a while.
yeah, and it's, if you had something like that where you could add it to something fundamental and make it grow or add to it.
Transformer.
Well, so you're talking about getting through the kids. I mean, there is the other level of kids, which are, you know, teenagers or young adults, and they might have some bucks, and they might be
If
able
we wait that long, we lost them already.
So it
We've
takes
lost them
the
already.
imagination,
Girls, cars, and video games, not necessarily in that order.
whichever comes first.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here a little bit.
What's
We
that?
have devil's advocate. We have
Oh.
another problem. And I'm gonna inject profiling. Because he can tell you right now, and we had Bill he said the same thing. You have very interested kids in junior high and later elementary school interested in this stuff. Who are they? Mostly Southeast Asians, Indians, Chinese. Where are our kids? The Caucasian kids, European kids who migrated.
Right.
They're the very interested ones. But what are our kids? Soccer, flag football,
Video games.
basketball, video games. That's one
Girls
place.
and cars.
Yeah.
Don't forget the girls in the cars.
And, well, and also slot cars and things like that. In other words, you're gonna capture a certain audience. And unfortunately, you gotta, I don't know what it is. I have a cousin who's just entered University of Michigan. He wants to be he's going into aerospace engineering. Well, he's always been interested in, but his brother and his sister are not. They're into music. I've got 2 grandkids who are music. That's all they want. I can't give my stuff away.
Yeah.
And I think you need to direct what.
But why? Because those kids, your kids that are into music, got into music when they were 5 years old or 6 years old.
Yeah.
Something did it for them when
Yeah.
they were 5 or 6 years old.
My son, my oldest one, with the 2 boys, played cello from elementary. He started with the violin, went to cello, and all the way up to college.
When did he start playing?
And after college, he used to go down and play at Santa Clara University in a mission.
Well, when did he start playing? When was the first time he?
In elementary school.
There you go. That's exactly
They
what I'm
don't
saying
have
by the
that
time.
anymore.
If we don't get them by the time,
I know,
early
that's-
elementary school
What
with a
I'm
free
trying to do
glider.
is say, that's what we need to do, is we need to direct where you want to find out who's interested. One place you can do it is in the scouts, or start clubs within like elementary schools, if you can get somebody.
These are segments, though. We're talking about. Maybe we're off track here. Maybe we're just looking to talk about an airplane that you want to build.
No, I'm open to this idea because it's kind of true, right? You're right.
I mean, you've got to have an audience. If you don't have an audience, you're screwed.
But I'm just saying that you wait till they're in junior high school, you're going to get this percentage. If you start them
That's right.
when they're in first grade, you'll get this percentage. Whatever that number is, I don't know. But if you wait till they're junior high school,
So maybe just a
It's gonna-
enhanced Chuck glider for
I
a
think-
6-year-old is the
I
right-
think the most important airplane that you could design that would fit this discussion anyway
Yeah.
is no gyros, the least expensive, the simplest to make, something where there's only a little bit of labor involved for this person. And it would be like level 3 of this glider progression that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that would be inexpensive enough that we could provide some of those and make some of those. And if they fail, they fail. We don't have a lot of money into them. And simplicity is important.
Well, the other thing that I've seen too, is that when you take these little gliders, these little kids, they want the glider to do something. They don't want it to just go floating off into space. They want it to do loops.
Exactly. After they've flown it and they get it down, they say, oh, this thing works really good. Now what? Now what can I do? You're right.
Yeah, it's got to do something.
But that's the first step, though. That penny glider, though, is the first step because it gives them that little bit of satisfaction, and that's the hook to get them to the next glider that you're
So
talking
it's
about.
kind of a progression. So you glide first, and then you turn, you loop, and then maybe you
Yeah,
thermal, right?
yeah.
You know, those little balsa gliders you can get for $1. You know, wherever you set the main wing.
No, they're $1.99 now. They're $1.99 now.
Okay. But you set the wing, you know, forward,
Yeah.
and they'll do one thing. You set it back, it'll do something else.
That's right.
But
Rubber
when
band
you-
power.
when I say something, I'm kind of lost here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your market demographic? Because it seems like we somehow got off the subject.
Yeah.
We did.
You started talking about making a easy flying glider. You didn't say for kids.
No,
You know,
I didn't say for kids.
A grown-up can afford, a $60, $70
I mean,
easy flying glider.
yeah,
If you want to get grown-ups into the hobby, you want something that they can start.
yeah. No,
Getting
I'm
kids
just
involved
open
is
to
a
ideas.
whole different thing because if
Yeah.
the parent doesn't support the kid, it's not going to happen. We
And also
keep
there's
talking
no-
about this. I've been a member of many clubs, and none of them have kids in them. Okay,
Yeah, that's right.
RC club, and none of them have kids in them.
It's
We'll
a
never
shame.
have kids.
It's
in them.
really a shame.
And I've been doing it for 40 years.
And we all
The
want to have kids, yeah.
Kids do not get involved. This is for someone who.
But most of us were kids when we got
discretionary income, is of a certain age, and they come to this hobby. I mean, we always try to get kids involved. It will never happen.
But Sean, didn't most of us start as little kids?
It will never happen.
But didn't most of us start as little kids?
Unless the father, say for example, the candies. I remember the only reason Tim Candy is involved because his father was involved. He took him to the flying field, brought him to the meetings, blah, blah, blah. But that's a different story. I just want to, what is your target audience?
Yeah. No, I guess I was just thinking, gliders were a lot easier to do, you could open up the market. And I was thinking the market were people who could.
Because, you know, you're
The
talking about making it simple.
Yeah, I mean, all of us probably have stories about how we got interested in model airplanes. It wasn't my father, it was my grandfather. Got me started when I was about 8.
But we
The
kind of
thing now,
came back to
the
it.
problem we're really bumping up against is a problem that's affecting everything, and that's the fact that parents are so involved in other things. I mean, I grew up, my mother was always home.
No mom's home anymore.
No mom's home anymore.
There was 3 channels on the TV.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
3 channels, not 300.
And you had to go out, in ours, you had to go out and rotate the antenna a little bit to get the channels to come in.
What's
I
this
remember
TV
that.
stuff? I grew up.
You play kick the can in the alley, that's
Well,
what, that's.
the problem,
The thing is,
was-
honestly, I'm sorry, go ahead.
the problem is getting the support for the kid.
Yeah, and
You know,
there's,
the
and
thing
there's
is,
too much
if you look
competition.
Dad,
for-
you know, like, you know, when Dole talks to all sorts of people when he goes out, and I've talked to him too. If you're gonna hook the dad and tell him he can do this for $100, you know, guaranteed to fly for $100.
See, I think you're wrong. You gotta hook the kid.
No,
You
Because-
hook it. I think
because
you gotta
the
hook the kid.
Agree with Bob.
the problem,
No, no, you.
I think I
I
kind of
think
need to
the
start
paradigm has
whining
changed.
it.
No, no, this is good.
I really
You think
think
it's okay?
I really think the paradigm has changed.
Mark's kind of sleeping there.
You gotta hook an adult somewhere along the line. Because the
Well, you
kid,
do somewhere along the line, but if the kid doesn't want to do it, if the dad can't shove it down his throat.
that's true.
I'm actually.
So, I mean, you know, you start with
The kid
this,
obviously has to have the
It's
interest.
like waves.
The hobby,
Yeah.
but the parent has to be there. I mean,
the
look at
parent
all
has to
the-
support it.
look
I
at all
agree
the,
with
all
you.
the kids
I-
have
there's no
having
argument
a
there.
teaching, you know, where are they?
There's no argument there. That's why this progression thing makes sense to
You didn't need
me.
to have a parent, you had to have an adult or an older kid.
I
Who
did.
could be the mentor.
Yeah.
I grew up,
Yeah.
my father died when I was 13. I grew up in World War II. The guys who were mentoring me all ended up in the service, some never came back. They were out there flying their free flights when I first saw them. Now, but I had started earlier. My father dissuaded me from aviation, my mother, because my father had a plane and crashed the damn thing. So I did it in spite of him.
And I had no father. You know, I was raised without a father or grandfather for the most part. And, I mean, I learned myself, but I did it because I wanted to do it, not because,
Yeah, but
and everybody has a different
But
story.
what hooked
That's
you?
right.
Huh?
Excuse me, I'd like to bring in and interject here some recent experience, and was through the Parks and Recreation, where we got the parents were very interested in this, and very influential with the children. And oddly enough, it was a 50-50, girls and boys. And the mothers were after me, let me know when you're gonna have your next class. You'd like to continue on with doing this. And the thing that I kind of pitched along with this to the parents and coaching them, I said, this isn't just flying airplanes. Brought in the STEM elements. I said, no matter where your child is going to go with this model aviation or airplanes, he'll understand all these elements, mechanics, physics, and science, and, you know, of all of that. And
That's how I got
they were
into it
very
with my
sincere
son.
about doing that, about wanting to do more, to get more involved with that.
So maybe that's the hook, maybe it's kids and parents.
Well, it is kids and
Like
parents.
it's educational.
But
Now, there was, you know, those classes cost a little, $30 or something. I'm losing my throat here, my voice. But they're very supportive of that, and, but I just didn't have enough to keep that program going, although they've asked me recently that, you know, might want to continue that.
You see, the development of something like this would be something to keep the program going.
Yes.
And for that matter,
Progressive, yeah.
you're talking about a sailplane, DLG. And, you know, the, 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 the,
Oh,
You
not
still hook
this
an
way.
electric, you can still hook an electric motor on the front end of the thing.
How many of you remember the AJ Interceptor?
Yeah, that was my
My
favorite
favorite
plane.
Yep.
I just happened to have this tonight, I didn't know he was gonna put this on. This is the
Interceptor.
AJ Interceptor, where you fold the wing, you know, and you.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Catapult it up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this guy got-
AJ Harness,
This
that
guy
was
got
the
one
other.
of these, and he expanded it, and he actually put a motor in the front. I'm gonna pass this around, or I'm gonna give it to you, and you can do it.
And you know, that's a great thing to look at. If we're looking for some airplane that kids could fly, they can't do a DLG line. They're not strong enough, especially some of the little kids, the little girls and stuff. But a catapult with a rubber band,
start.
that'd be perfect for a
To
DLG.
start out,
Yeah.
right.
Be perfect for a
But
DLG.
here's,
Or-
read this article. It's
The fling is a perfect example of that type of thing.
50 feet.
The fling comes with a little catapult thing.
50 feet is-
But this guy took that, and expanded it, made 2 fuselages, and put electronics in the middle of it. And it's an RC, and he's got a small electric motor in the front, folding prop. You launch it, you're fine. And it doesn't cost a hell of a lot of money, especially when you can get all of the material today for not a lot of money.
Well, you know, the other thing about a catapult plane like that is you don't need there's no technique to launching it. You know,
AJ.
everything zeroes out and you pull it back and you let it go. You know, DLGs,
I'm gonna give you the article.
it's a lot, it'd be hard to learn how to fly a DLG by yourself.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's an evolved, and maybe it's this, you get a
That's a
frame,
good intermediate
airframe, you can put a motor on it, you can put a rubber band on it, you can DLG it maybe
Rubber
eventually.
band it, then add the motor, and then
Yeah.
go to the bigger
And
glider.
electronics could be, free flight and.
It's all pie in the sky stuff, guys. Who's gonna actually do this?
If you guys wanna find stuff like this, you can come to the Colecto on Saturday and you'll find I'm serious, there's an awful lot of old stuff in there that might stir up the gray matter, as Poirot would say. Anybody?
It's great. Okay, well, I just wanted to present some ideas, and I appreciate all the help on it, so,
Oh, we're done?
yeah.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, I don't want to lose the audience. So I'll give you another update maybe in 9 months or something. And then should we do an auction on January?
Takes a lot of
I
energy.
know what you think.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Hey,
Thank you.
Kyle,